and welcome to this episode of Season 5 of the Dr. Tech Show, where myself, Pauline Roche, and Sweyn Hunter, and often guests as we have today, talk about digital topics, including the world of online communications and digital inclusion, in a show which was the brainchild of digital storyteller, the late and much missed John Popham. So we'll go straight to our special guest this week, Luke Wilkinson. Luke, how's the weather been this week where you are?
We've had very changeable weather over the last 24 hours, lightning storms and blazing sunshine.
Wow. And where are you in the country?
Derbyshire.
Okay, cool. And Sweyn, what about yourself?
I'm in Orkney in Kirkwall as usual, and the sky is overcast. It's not too cold, it's not too windy, so we'll take that as a win.
Okay, that's good. Well, I am this week in the west of Ireland, in Galway, and we have sunny blue skies with some clouds now. It was very blue earlier, but yes, clouds are over a bit now. But it has been lovely. Alexa tells me there's going to be no rain, so I'm going to hold her to that and hopefully get out later on after the show. Luke Wilkinson from Razor, we're very pleased to have you on the show today. We'll just go through a few dates and events and then we'll introduce you properly, so please bear with us. Sweyn, what dates have you picked up for us this week?
Well, I have two as usual, and they're both United Nations days. So the first is World Population Day, and the thing about this is it's overseen by the United Nations Population Fund, and their chief executive or executive director, Dr. Natalia Kanem, says for humanity to progress, people must be counted wherever they are and whoever they are in all their diversity. Carries on to end inequality, to find and grow peace and prosperity, to weave more threads of hope. The world needs to do more for inclusion. And to that end, as we mark World Population Day this year, the importance of collecting inclusive data, that is counting everyone everywhere as they are, takes the spotlight. It's often unrecognized, a kind of unrecognized hero in global development. Reliable data is, and that's helped to drive global advancements in women's access to reproductive care, reductions in maternal death, and improvements in gender equality. But there's still much more to do. So to learn more about that, then go off to the website that's in the show notes or the YouTube description that we have. Second one I have is International Day of Hope, which is tomorrow. And this is another United Nations Day, and they say it's a universal need in uncertain times, and in a world facing growing unrest, widening social divisions, and persistent economic and environmental challenges, the global community continues to seek values that unite rather than divide. And among these, hope stands out as a deeply powerful and universally resonant force. And recognizing this, the United Nations General Assembly has designated the 12th of July as the International Day of Hope to celebrate and promote hope as a guiding principle for individuals, communities, and nations alike. So those are the two dates I picked this week.
Great, thank you very much. And I've got a couple of events I've picked up from our friends on LinkedIn. And the first one is tomorrow, the 8th of July. And this is a digital drop-in session, which is being repeated fortnightly. And the text says, do you run or work for a charity? Are you a fundraiser, comms manager, or CEO? These free drop-in sessions will help you confidently deal with your digital marketing challenges in a safe and energizing space. And the sessions are co-facilitated by Matt and Nick, founders of All Things Equal. That's Matt Saunders, who is a friend of the show, a third sector specialist agency helping charities with all aspects of online marketing, from SEO and web design to social comms and CRM. And last time they met 2 weeks ago, they talked about choosing the right online booking forms, where to find trustees, always a perennial issue, and how to get more engagement for your fundraising campaigns. And we may hear more from our special guest about that later on, but can recommend those sessions. Matt's got a history of being very helpful to the sector. I'd recommend those for anyone interested in marketing their organisation. And the second date is also this week. On Thursday, the 10th of July, from 1 to 2 p.m, is the official launch and key findings from the Charity Digital Skills Report 2025, hosted by Nessa Ramsey and Zoe Amar. sharing what 672 charities have told them about their digital reality this year. And during this session, they will explore they've got 5 points. Firstly, AI adoption, how charities are embracing artificial intelligence and managing the risks, why strategy matters, and how leadership skills help. Number 2, key trends in 2025, how the cost of living crisis continues to impact digital progress, how charities are adapting their social media strategies in a changing landscape and emerging support needs around AI. Number 3, digital divides, the widening gap between large and small charities, regional differences in digital skills and maturity, and why digital skills support matters. All music to my ears and close to my heart, topics close to my heart. Number 4, inclusion and equity, how charities are providing digital inclusion support and prioritising inclusion by design with a spotlight on Black-led charities. Great, good to hear. And number 5, funding landscape, what charities need from funders to move forward with digital. So that sounds like a not to be missed event for, I think, lots of people who are tuning into this show. Sweyn, do you think you might pop along to that one?
I'm not sure. I may do. Don't know yet.
Okay, well, I'd recommend it. I'm sure they'll record it anyway, so we can catch up on it later on. Great. Okay, and so we welcome our very special guest, Luke Wilkinson, the founder of Razor. Luke is a fundraiser, trustee, and former charity CEO. He's on a mission to level the playing field for the tiny charities making a huge impact by giving leaders systems, simplicity, and support. Razor brings innovation and design thinking to the charity sector, engages proactively with new uses of technology to tackle some of the most pernicious and persistent challenges, and helps charities and donors raise their game together. The blurb goes on to say, with charities, we offer tools, training, and support to help them amplify their message, raise more funds, and maximize the difference that they make at grassroots. And with funders, we work to modernize giving mechanisms, reduce inefficiency, and build funding partnerships focused on impact. Luke, you're very welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Pauline and Sweyn. Really good to be here. Listening back to your description about Razor, I was thinking, wow, that sounds great. I suppose those are all things I've written, aren't they?
Yeah, very good. We met recently at the West Midlands Funders Network Digital Frontiers for Funders conference, which I'm very pleased you were able to attend. A very well attended event in Birmingham at Steam House. How was the event for you? Did you pick up any new hints and tips, contacts?
Yeah, really helpful being there. Met some nice people, particularly the lady from the National Lottery who was speaking about the way that they see AI impacting their giving. And I think that was a theme through the day, wasn't it? It was how can AI help funders? I thought there was a lot of, I was interested, there was a lot of nervousness still. So I think I've been working with AI tools for over a year now and feel very au fait with them. And this is fantastic. This is really helping me get a lot more done. But I think a lot of people have still probably at the point where they've just tried it a couple of times and a bit nervous and how is this going to interact with my job? And so it was interesting to come to something for me and just sort of get a grounding reality check back with where most people probably still are feeling a bit unsure about what it means, aren't they?
Yeah. I mean, the Funders Network, of which I've been a trustee and chair and now ambassador, started our data journey way back in whenever it was, about 10 years ago with 360 Giving. So we've kind of done some work in the space for a while, but nobody considered themselves an expert yet. And if everybody can be with this stuff, and we're very pleased to have support from CAST, who were there. Dan Such was there on the day to help us kind of guide some of the work that we were doing. But I think it's still, and there is some hesitation still, and not unreasonably, I think, partly because people don't have the proficiency of digital skills that they would need to have, I think, to have the confidence for this. But also because there are some negatives, some downsides to AI yet, and there's caution. I think caution is to be advised.
I think caution is sensible, but I was just reflecting actually as you were reading out about that International Day of Hope and how hope is a useful thing, a thing that everyone can get behind. I think as a fundraiser in the charity sector, you have to have an unreasonable amount of hope. Otherwise, you would go mad, wouldn't you? And you'd walk away, find a real job somewhere else. But in trying to keep a charity going year on year, obviously relies on hope that you believe things are going to be different and things can be changed. If you just
Mm,
looked at the world's problems and gave up and thought this, it's still beyond me, nothing I can do about it,
mm,
you wouldn't engage in charitable work at all, I don't think. So I think I think that would be fair to say that's a fundamental like feature of the people that work in the sector. And I think it's really interesting. I think AI for me is the first thing in a long time that has given a sense of like, wow, there's something here that could really make a difference.
mm,
I've, I mean, I've been working in the charity sector for almost coming up to 20 years, actually. If I count, my very first job was at a charity, which was Richmond Theatre, stocking the bar. But all theatres are charity, most of the
mm,
arts organisations are charities. And we've had successive governments and budgets and austerity and stuff. You would continue to feel beaten down if you didn't have hope, I think.
mm,
But I think AI, more than any kind of radical political change coming about, AI actually offers a tool, very cost effective, that can do a lot for changing various things around the sector. But I think it is that kind of like nervousness about how we're going to engage in it, how we're going to make it help us do this stuff. And
mm.
yeah.
Yeah. We'd be interested to hear actually about your early career, especially how you got into kind of tech and being online, because our listeners are interested in kind of the pathways people take. So if you can tell us a bit about how your first computer, your first kind of experience of social media, that sort of thing, we'd like to hear
Yeah,
that.
definitely. So I have a non-linear route into being a tech founder now, which is that for most of my life, I've had a bare minimum approach to digital technology. So I never had a kind of gaming console at home growing up. That was a decision my parents made, and
Mm,
I think in hindsight, I feel grateful for that. We I learned to use computers obviously to go through school, university, and in my day-to-day work. But I didn't get I had a brick mobile, which I only got at the age of 18. Most of my friends had got one at 11. I don't know. I've kind of been like
mm,
probably naturally like not wanting to follow hype for most of my life. And then I worked in community work and youth work with people in very disadvantaged communities and parts of the UK, I suppose, and for whom the promise of like all the big shiny stuff that you see on billboards just doesn't translate into reality day
yeah.
to day. So it's never really been relevant to me, I think, is the approach I took for a long time until so this was I can remember this vividly. So it was January 2023, I think.
Very recent.
We're in 2025 now, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So it's almost it's over 2 years ago. I think I messaged my friend James, who has been on an alternative career trajectory to me, early releases of any new tech reviews, like he's been very, very interested in digital technology, especially and marketing. And he developed the creation of an app for Lego in one of his early jobs, and has recently just sold his voice AI marketing agency. So it's a very, very different career
Mm,
trajectory to me. But I realized the things, I think this must have been 2024, I'm sorry, January 2024, the things I've been thinking about with the charity sector and how to help people overcome the continuous difficulties of trying to find money and run the organization that you're trying to run. I realized that these things probably had a solution in technology. And
mm,
so I messaged James and said, can we have a chat? I think I need your help designing some software. How do I go about it? And that for me has been a very rapid sort of 18 months, I suppose, of discovering what's out there
mm,
alongside the very rapid development of AI tools.
right.
And I
Okay.
think I think I would say I'm still probably I'm not the kind of person that would say, great, and now I need and now I'm going to get everything new, shiny tech stuff. I buy my phones secondhand.
So do
Uh,
I.
Yeah.
I get the iPhone that still has a button because I like being able to press the
Yeah.
button
Yeah.
thing.
I didn't know there was an alternative, but there you go. I've always been Android.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay, so not the typical tech founder path.
Yeah.
So who would you say are your contemporaries that you think are worth listening to, and that you would kind of, you mentioned your friend James. Are there other people that you kind of look up to or kind of think are worth listening to in this ecosystem?
Yeah, I don't know, in charity tech and like sort of technology in the third sector and in social good in general, I'm discovering more and more people online who are talking about this thing, and it's really nice to meet Dan Such.
Mm,
I was with you the other day. As I've been working on developing software, I was introduced by a friend to the work of 37 Signals. Do you guys know them? So
name rings a bell. I don't know them. I
um,
don't. Oh,
Jason Fried and David Heinemeier Hansen, and they
okay.
have products like Basecamp and an
Okay.
email
Yeah.
called Hey. And
Mm,
David Heinemeier Hansen invented the coding language Ruby on Rails, which is
okay. Yeah.
there's a whole kind of online community around that. But
Mm,
having had nothing to do with software, I find them really interesting because they talk about the development of their company and their products
Mm,
in very real, like human ways. It's not techie, if you like.
mm,
It's not about the code as such. It's about the approach you're taking to create something that a customer actually wants and which solves a problem for them and is
yeah.
simple and is good and it works well like
Yeah.
that. And they're nice. I like them. So I follow them quite a lot. And the kind of philosophy they have about they've been running their company for 25 years or something like that. So they've been around to see the internet rise and Google rise, and they've seen all that, and they've been around running a web-based business since the
Mm,
beginning. And they question orthodoxy, like, does everything have to have spyware in it now? Like, I've moved my email actually to Hey emails,
Hey.
Hey, yeah, Hey.
Mm, mm-hmm,
Um, and it's from a Google provider
mm-hmm,
and my Razor email, and it has a spyware blocker. So it's just things like that.
mm,
I have found it useful in the past using very powerful tools, like it shows me someone's read my message, or
mm.
but actually thinking about that, do I need to know that? Does anyone need to know that about me? How much? I think that just sort of like the politics in America at the moment makes me think how much of my business is actually invested in American tech companies. Almost all of it. Every software subscription I have pretty much is an American-based company. And are they really at the mercy of the whims of the political leader of the moment? And just caution, I suppose. So I suppose
Yeah.
I'm keeping that same sense of trying not to just go with the hype of that's around everything new.
Mm, mm.
Just take the good and learn how to kind of manage that well as you engage in
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. So would you be more inclined to go for open source than proprietary software?
I think so, not necessarily. I think I don't mind paying people for something that's good. I think people should deserve to be rewarded for making good products that are useful to people. But I think it's more thinking about what what is being given in exchange, like my
Mm,
data, the way I use things, the data about my customer. Like there's the GDPR regulations mean that you need to store your data on locally based servers now to
yeah.
and that's good. But a lot of them still are owned by Amazon, for example. So
Mm,
the infrastructure is still owned by Amazon or Google. And then I suppose thinking about so especially trying to create a software product for the charity sector. I haven't taken any investment so far, and I'm thinking long and hard about whether I will and in which way I would accept investment. But one thing I'm certain of is I don't want to take a investment from a venture capitalist approach, which is about returning maximum profit to the investor,
mm,
which seems to me to extract money from our sector rather than contribute to it. So
yeah.
all of these things are at play in my mind. So I've been trying to think, where could I move my um, the various different sort of digital tools and storage and products I use to run Razor, for example,
mm,
can they be with for example, EU or British-based companies may be owner-led, owner-owned, founder-owned
Mm,
still, or community-owned in some way, or not necessarily with a massively exploitative profit model. Or I'm just thinking about all of those things in a way
yeah,
that never would have occurred to me before.
yeah. That's brilliant because I think that's certainly the way my mind works. I think Sweyn is kind of inclined for that as well. And it's the kind of thing I look to read about on LinkedIn because, well, that's where people go to read that, kind of generally what people are talking about these days. Are you aware of Rachel Caldecott and Careful Industries?
Reggie Caldecott.
Rachel Caldecott.
Yes, I recognize the name, but remind me.
She's kind of I would consider her a leader in civic tech and
Okay.
doing some very interesting work around AI as well as digital inclusion and stuff like that. She's got very interesting things to say, very considerate, and I just what you're saying chimes with me about the kind of things that she writes about as well. So I think that'll be a good link to have.
Thank you.
So at the event in Steamhouse, did you come across any fellow travelers that you thought you'd like to work with, or did any of the funders have a chat with you besides the National Lottery one?
Yes, I spoke with a couple of other people. I think it was Peter from Lloyds Bank Foundation. Is that right?
Yeah, you can see. Yeah.
Anyway, he asked a question so I have a gentle rivalry with the founder of Plinth, which is a similar tech product for the charity sector. Not in lots of ways, not actually. So they make products for lots of different sort of aspects of things, including community foundations and local authorities and stuff like that. It's not the sort of thing I'm trying to do. But I think we get each other. We kind of talk online and compare notes a bit. But Tom was giving a presentation and showing all the different things that AI could help with in the grant making process. I suppose that was the kind of key idea of the day, wasn't it?
Mm,
And Peter more or less said at the end, okay, so once AI is made applying for grants and assessing grants redundant, what are we all going to do? And I think Tom said, well, it's not up to me to kind of judge that. That's then the question for the sector to consider. That's true. But I actually have a ready-made, like very quick answer comes to mind, and I went to talk to Peter about that afterwards, which is let's make relationship then. So if you can cut out wasted time on meaningless tasks, basically. I think
yeah.
it's these inefficiencies everybody recognizes.
Yeah.
And I think in the traditional process of here's our form, here's the date, apply, sort, decide, award, don't award. In that process, there is incredible inefficiency. I think AI has just exaggerated that to the point of absurdity. So I don't think AI is part of the solution in that sense. I think it's shown, okay, where 100 people might have applied for a fund and 90 of them would have been disappointed. Now you can get 1,000 people apply for a fund and 990 are disappointed. Like it amplifies it to the point. This is almost comic. And I think the better question is not how do we use the power of this new technology to improve an existing process, which might be, okay, people write and then assessors use the AI to sift for them. So there's no, and as everybody says, again, seems absurd. You have robot talking to robot. What's the point? If you can cut that process out altogether and have some form of matching between the charities that say they're doing the kind of work that the funder says they want to fund, and then you can actually get talking, and then you could have relationship building between funder and grantee, and spend actually more time focused on actually getting on with solving the problems society has. So
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
Dan said something to that end in his summing up speech at the end of the day, where very often you have funders have a lot of in-house expertise in the field in which they fund, but that expert's time might, 30, 50% of their time might be being spent on administrative firefighting to just get to the point of giving the money.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you can win back that time and actually they spend time consulting and supporting the charities they fund,
Yeah,
even better.
I agree. I have made myself unpopular in the past by saying that if funders spent, had more access to data about the environment they're working in and the issues they want to solve, and the charities and other organizations who are working in that space, and bring all that together, then fundraisers could be out of a job basically, because it's not without truth to say that a well-written bid can persuade a funder, not necessarily because the charity is the best in the field, but just because they write a good bid, and that doesn't seem fair, really, when the data might prove that the need is elsewhere. So you could see fundraisers not, feeling put out a bit by it.
And I've definitely seen.
I don't think I've expressed that recently, but I certainly think that there's usefulness for both fundraisers and funders to use technology better than they have been doing so far. So did anybody push back? Has anybody pushed back on what you're trying to do? Has anybody said this isn't a good idea?
Yeah, so I think what I was going to say on you were saying about fundraisers being put out of a job. I think partly that could happen. Yeah, bid writing especially. So if you're, and this is the way I earn a living right now, is bid writing for charities. So yes, I could put myself out of a job, but I don't think that's likely to happen, and I don't think actually it would be the worst thing. It just changed the job. So I think if you think about it more like there are thousands of funding bodies in the UK. Something I was trying to work out the other day is how many are there, and that's very mysterious, hard to
Yes.
because I found figures ranging from 8,000 to 61,000,
Yeah.
and it can't be both. But I think the general consensus was there are about 8,000 sort of who actively distribute funds each year, which to me raises sorry, there's a bit tangents here. That raises an enormous question of transparency about where on earth is all the fund, all this money, is it just sitting there growing in interest and not supporting the sector at a time of massive crisis? So that's another. But fundraising by writing grant applications, I think there will always be funding bodies who operate in that way. And I think that process is appropriate for larger grant making because you want to fund specific things that have clear contained outcomes that the money is going to support and stuff. My interest is in small charities. In small charities, I mean the kind of the definition the sector takes usually is of under £1 million a year turnover.
Yeah.
In my mind, I have worked with £1 million a year turnover charity and a £50,000 a year turnover charity, and they're on a completely different planet.
I'd say £1 million sounds a lot.
Sorry?
Sounds quite large to me.
Yeah.
But yes, it's just because it's relative. Like, so if you have charities have income ranging from £5 a year to 50 million, or then somewhere there's a line has been drawn. But meaningfully small to me means around the 100K a year turnover point, which is the overwhelming majority of the charity sector.
Sorry, say that figure again.
Charities with an income of £100,000 a year or less is something like 85-90% of the entire sector. So that's the norm. And Oxfam, Christian Aid.
Yeah, the ones you've heard about don't need this. They already have their in-house fundraising departments. Yeah.
So I think in most cases, most small charities are writing funding bids by the chief executive or the effective chief executive, which is likely to be someone who's volunteering or part volunteering or doing everything, has no time, has no training or expertise in bid writing.
Yeah.
And you might do the same amount of work and be awarded a £2,000 grant because your turnover is only 60,000, as a charity has £600,000 grant could do the same amount of work and win a £70,000 grant. There's just this sort of double disadvantage that small charities have in the traditional application writing process, and I think it's just unnecessary, really. So most small charities are things like scout groups and local youth clubs and food banks and mums and tots groups. Like that's what most
Mm, yeah.
charities are, in local communities, and all they really need is a contribution to do the work that they do.
Mm,
And so I think funders should just give in an unrestricted way, because it is effectively is restricted. It's like
yeah.
you all I'm going to do with this is run the baby bank in my town.
Yeah.
There's no, it's not like we're going to suddenly jack up the chief executive's salary because they don't have one.
Yeah.
So I think funders should give in that way, but I think the process of deciding who gets what and stuff, I think there's just burning. It's like running an engine with no oil in. It's just like sort of generating all this heat and wasted energy
Yeah. Yeah.
to give tiny amounts of money.
And there has been research, hasn't there, on how much time is spent on making applications, and the return on investment is very low. So yeah, it's usually not a good use of people's time. I mean, when I was talking earlier was more about thinking about the index of multiple deprivation. You know, the data that's available on what needs are in an area, matched up with the ability or the capacity of the voluntary, whatever voluntary organizations are, and then the availability of funding to meet that. So kind of putting all those things together.
Yeah.
You know, I think some authorities, some local authorities, some charities do some of that, but there isn't one perfect arrangement for it as yet. And so would you say that Razor offers some of this, you know, cutting out the kind of the slack, or the kind of the waste of time that people have at the moment? Yeah.
So my big idea with Razor is there are lots of bid writing tools online. So and that's one of the things Plinth does, for example. There are other ones. The basic idea Razor is trying to get around is you can just write your best funding application once. Set up a profile in Razor, and that would create a dashboard.
Yeah, like on screen at the moment. Yeah.
Impact based. Oh no, sorry, this is the dashboard of how your fundraising is doing. But
all right, okay.
I don't think there's a proper screenshot on the site yet of what we're creating. But the idea is you create an impact screen that you could then use for funders. So if they want to know the kind of questions they would ask you, what does your work do? What difference does it make? Who does it help? How does it help them? How do you know? Who governs you? How much money do you have? It's the same questions that are in every funding application.
Yeah.
We will support charities to set that up well once, because it's being built by people who understand grant fundraising. But then we would invite funders to the platform to say, look, if you could just look at this charity's profile and decide if you want to fund them or not. That's it. But actually, to be able to do that on aggregate as well. So if we had, I mean, one thing we would like to do really when we get ready enough is that any charity could create a profile. So we could have every charity in the UK in there, and funders can then use it as a discovery tool. So they want to fund by theme or region or cause or income size, and that they would be able to then, as this is off the funders page, thanks, Sweyn.
Yeah.
Funder would be shown something where, yes, we've done the due diligence on your behalf, verified the account, yes, this person's charity commission profile matches up with what they say on their website, you know, various things that funders want to know before parting with money.
Yeah.
But also lends itself to the idea of giving on aggregate as well. So if you imagine that I talk about I use youth work as an example a lot of the time because that's the sector I've worked in. So the charity I used to lead, we worked with up to 500 children a year when it was at its largest. Even working with 500 children a year, you don't get anywhere near enough of a sample size to have any statistically significant claim about impact. And we weren't working with a kind of, you know, a control group.
Yeah.
But on aggregate, there are studies that have worked on massive aggregate sort of studies to see do youth work projects that involve some form of mentoring have a positive impact on young people's lives now and long term, and they do.
Okay.
So we would make claims that, you know, we just basically focus on running the youth mentoring project well, because research has shown that this has this knock-on effect long term. But you could also do that with charities if they can, if our platform is designed to encourage collaboration rather than competition with charities, as well as collaboration among funders, you could get a page perhaps where all youth charities doing some form of mentoring align their profile with that and say, this is the extent of work that we do and the costs we have. And then, 10,000 youth charities saying this week we worked with, on aggregate, 100,000 young people or something, 200,000 young people, then you can actually make some serious claims about the knock-on impact on young people. Because that's the sort of scale that you can make. You can see proper trends in data, and funders could also fund on that basis. So we want to fund youth projects that have long-term impact on young people's mental health and life chances. So we'd like to fund the youth fund in Razor and write a £500,000 check towards that. And that potentially that's distributed among the charities that are partnered on that scheme.
So charities need to get better at partnership building in that case, but also would it not encourage competition between the charities to, be the one that gets picked or be the ones that get picked?
I don't have the mechanics of it worked out in my mind, but I think I can see a way through it. So I think if we work on the basis of trusting charities to say that what they need is true to do the work that they do, that's one of the IVAR's principles, isn't it? About open and trusting funding.
Yeah.
To say we are going to support these young people with these needs in this community, we're going to do this work, and our organizational budget is this. I think it can be open for scrutiny. So I think, the building of transparency and trust on both sides is really good. I've got a lot to say about funder transparency, but the demands that are made on charities are already very tough.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
There's news at the moment about people protesting that small companies are going to have to declare their profit and loss statements publicly. Did you see that?
No.
And then the government has U-turned on it because it would be bad for business, because it would make you uncompetitive if people could see how much.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of get that argument, but I laughed a bit when I first saw it, because I was like, well, if you're a charity, as soon as you turn over £20,000, you need to do a full set of accounts. And my salary as chief executive for the last 8 years is publicly available on Charity Commission website if you want to read it.
Yeah.
And the most we ever turned over was 300,000. So the level of scrutiny charities already have, I think, is fine. It's absolutely fine. So if charities all said, genuinely, this is how much it's going to cost us to do it, everybody who adds to the fund, I'm thinking this through out loud as well, by the way, this is not fully formed.
Yes.
Everyone says on the fund, in total, these charities' needs collectively are 2 or 3 million. Funder X, would you consider giving 500,000 to it? It's just distributed as, if you imagine as a charity, all you've really had to do is associate your profile with the fund, and every now and again you get some money comes your way. That's not bad, is it? I think that's like building more of that kind of, if that's not your only fundraising approach anyway.
Yeah.
Every now and again you're being given money kind of towards the work that you already do.
I suppose I'd worry about cash flow, but that could be worked out. Yeah. So at the moment, are you equally trying to build relationships with funders and charities, or is one more prominent than the other at the moment?
I'm doing both, but the first thing I'm going to release is just a charity side tool, because there are lots and lots of grant applications that charities are going for, and so this will help you. So the basic idea is set up your profile once. You can run a pipeline of opportunities that you found and get reminders of when they're going to come up and what tasks you've still got to do, what kind of things the funder wants to fund. And it has an AI bid writing tool in to help you. So that basic sort of backbone of it is to help charities with their grant fundraising from today. They could start. I mean, not today because it's not open yet.
Yeah.
But from next week, they could
Okay.
They could use it to manage their whole grant fundraising process in one place. That's the basic selling point for a charity. But I am speaking with funders and have a couple already kind of saying, if you can show us how to give confidently to small charities, we're listening, because that it's this. A friend of mine is the chief executive of a foundation that for his company, and he said it's much easier for me to write £100,000 check to a well-known
Yeah,
charity and just send it, and then they send me back a glossy report at the end,
yeah, yeah.
easy, and I pass that on to my trustees, rather than write £1,000 checks and then chase all of those individual charities for. So I think it's the inefficiency on both sides of
Mm,
Hmm.
mm,
Hmm.
yeah,
and the more that the same work can be done once rather than repeated by dozens and dozens and dozens of people.
yeah,
That's not AI innovation. That's just plain common
yeah.
sense.
Well, I was just going to ask about the digital skills level that you think people will have to have. I mean, obviously, the digital skills report that's being launched this week will speak about AI use and what charities are doing. And I think a lot of them still are struggling. They don't have digital trustees.
Mm.
They don't recruit for digital skills. It's not
Mm.
usually not part of the recruitment process in most cases, as far as I can remember and as far as I know. Do you think a higher level of digital skills is needed and will be needed in charities for your product and others like it?
I don't think I don't think so particularly. I think everyone. I think there's a general sort of being able to use browser-based products and work with words, and but not getting anywhere near
Mm,
like needing to set up integrations or code or anything else like that yourself. I think it's just if you can use a word processor and click on a screen that you should be fine.
mm,
Yeah. But I think there is a nervousness about AI. Is some of it is there are the concerns people have about privacy and other robots coming for my job, and is it burning the planet? All of those things I think need
mm,
considering in the way that you engage with any technology, but in the same way that I don't think anybody ever has thought about those things when they've opened their laptop and started working on it. I think there's been a lot of bad press about AI particularly. Uh,
mm.
but I see that it's just a kind of a step on from all of the tools, technologies, mobile phones and stuff that we're using every day anyway. Quite
Yeah,
happy.
Yeah, the negative
yeah.
aspects of the new thing are always in full focus in our consideration, whereas the negative things about other technologies that we've always used can kind of get forgotten about and just accepted by default. It's a
Yeah.
bit like when
And
people complain that solar farms are so-called taking over good farmland, when for 40 years farmers have been quite enthusiastically turning plots of land into golf courses.
yeah.
That's also that's that's
Yeah.
it's the same kind of thing with AI and energy use and all of that stuff. Obviously, it will have an impact. It's a question of where the totality of the AI that we choose to actually develop l leads us and benefits us.
Yeah.
Mm,
And I think as a slight like side tangent, I think there's a whole interesting thing to think about the UK's digital infrastructure in terms of like actual server centers
Mm, mm,
and could some of them be community owned? Could the third sector take an interest in um, data centers and renewably run,
mm.
privately
Interesting.
stored,
Yes.
open source data around impact and the sector and stuff? That's another whole interesting topic. Rather
mm,
than only be worried about it, but we're kind of at the mercy of the big tech giants, so there's nothing we can do. I think
Yeah.
that just circling back to that idea at the beginning about hope, I think if we're a sector that is all about trying to make solutions in impossible circumstances, then let's embrace this one in the same way. Let's think, okay, this is very powerful technology. Yes, has these difficulties. So why don't we do this to safeguard it for ourselves and take the lead here?
mm,
That's an
mm,
interesting tangent. But you were asking about skills.
mm,
I think um, so. I had an interesting discussion in Birmingham actually with Tom at Plinth. They've chosen to put AI front and center in what their product is about and their branding and their marketing and everything. I am choosing to hide it in my marketing copy. So it's there, but it's not made a big thing of.
mm,
Because I think actually it's more my experience with people running small charities is nervousness and oh yeah, that's another. I mean, a chief executive I work with said, yeah, no, another thing I know I need to engage with, but just don't have the headspace for right now. But he's actually using my Razor product as an early adopter and has been for a few months and has raised £240,000 with its help. So it's not. So I said to him, you're an AI early adopter, actually.
But
But
is there a test? Is there anyone doing what he's doing alongside to not using Razor that would, prove the point?
no,
No.
not a direct comparison. It just helped them think about their bid.
Mm,
So it's not done all the work. You still have to,
mm,
and that's not the point. It just made it a bit quicker.
yeah,
So
yeah.
they worked on a draft and used the tool to make the draft happen quicker, and then they went back and forwards editing it themselves anyway. So it's just they were working in Word,
Yeah.
and then we did a bit of a session with me with them helping, and then carried on in Word and then sent it. So it's not that's what I mean. I don't think it's like suddenly we've got to become incredible tech experts overnight. Yeah.
You've already read about the research that's been done about cognitive decline of people using ChatGPT. Have you got any concerns about people, de-skilling themselves because they're using AI?
I've thought about that, and I've tried to reflect on my own use of AI, and then I think about my children as well, and whether part of me wants to teach them how to use it young, so that they think, oh, this is a cool way I can engage and think about the world. And the other part of me thinks, no, I want them to learn to think first and then use it. And I'm not decided on that. So but for myself, I think I've been on a massively accelerated learning journey over the last 12 months using tools on all levels. So I've learned about coding where I never knew anything about coding. I've learned about email marketing and stuff like that. I've created my own chat bot to help me write my weekly newsletter. But I'm intelligently engaging with it and asking it. So I actually see it more as this has helped me do more cognitive work, and I feel more tired at the end of a day of working hard on ChatGPT than I did in other ways before, if that makes sense. I
Yeah.
feel quite mentally exhausted because actually the amount of words my brain is processing backwards and forwards and the ideas and the pace at which we're moving is quite exhausting sometimes.
Yeah.
But I do think it'd be easy just to stop thinking and just, what should I do? What do I do here?
Yeah.
What do I do
Well,
here?
I hear a lot about how Snapchat has an AI now that the young people are using a lot to inform their life decisions, basically. And I think that's worrying a lot of parents because they worry that the AI is going to take over their role as an advisor to their young people. So
Well,
it sounds like,
something appeared in WhatsApp, didn't it? And I haven't worked out how to turn it off yet. I saw it. I don't want this here. I want to get rid of it.
No,
It's
exactly.
obviously been buried deep in settings somewhere to make it hard to get rid of.
Yeah. And they do warn you. I had an update on my mobile phone recently and my smartphone, and it said, once you do this, you can't go back. And like they are kind of getting more blatant about just putting it in. I mean, AI bots are attending nearly every meeting that I am attending, and but people are getting more confident in excluding them actually, which I love to see because I want people to think for themselves if they whether or not they want an AI bot there. But I'd like the pace of confidence building, and we've talked about that a lot on this show and elsewhere, to be faster, because to me that's what it comes down to, the confidence to ask questions of tech people and IT generally, that has been lacking in our sector, and I'm sure you've seen that yourself in your own career.
I agree. I think it's the changing your point of view of like, this is the way things are just made, so I have to use them this way.
Yeah.
To hang on a minute, I'm the customer here. This is what I want from it. This is what I need you to do. And if it's not doing that, it should be really. and to think about why, like, I do, I mean, I'm sure you guys have had this experience as well, where if you're working with an AI chatbot of any kind, it does give you back nonsense answers
Mm,
sometimes. I think that's what worries me with if you haven't had enough life experience to understand, no, I know that that's rubbish, and to question it.
mm,
Show me where's the
Yeah.
piece, where's the website you found this from, or where? Oh, actually, I made it up. Sorry,
yeah.
that's worrying.
Yeah.
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 Yes, and some of our political leaders seem less than concerned about putting out information that's not entirely true. So yeah,
Mhm.
it's not difficult to see how people might just go along with it. But
Mm.
yeah, as I say, I think confidence has been one of the main things I've been trying to build in people, to the ability to ask questions. Like when I do presentations and when I do, I kind of asking questions from the floor at kind of events, community events that I'm at. I'm always encouraging people to say, tell the tech community what you want, because you have a right to ask for, what you want and how you want things to be. Like my mom, I often talk about her on the show as well, and how, like, she has an iPad, but it's not necessarily, it's better probably than another device for intuitively using it and stuff. But she gets frustrated, and I want her to be able to have confidence that she can question it and change things if she wants to, because it doesn't, things come up and she doesn't know where they've come from. I don't want her to have to wonder about that. I want her to feel that she has a right for it to be the way she wants it to be.
Yeah. I think that's interesting thinking about the sector as well, because and again, with my bias for the smaller part, the smaller charities, which are the larger part of the sector,
Mm,
is we rely a lot on freebies, right? And
mm-hmm.
I've seen a lot of the time the technology I've used in charities has been either enterprise level stuff that isn't designed for small charities. So I've used Salesforce to manage grant fundraising pipeline, and that is impossible to use unless you have a full-time team of
Yeah,
Salesforce people in your
yeah.
staff.
Yeah.
Okay, impossible. So
Mm,
Salesforce has a non-profit free program. I think they should be banned by the Advertising Standards Agency from being allowed to sell that.
yes, I agree.
Yeah.
Can't use
Yeah,
it. Waste.
yeah,
Yeah.
And then the more interesting thing that happened recently was Microsoft pulled its free licenses program. Did you see
yeah,
that?
yeah.
So overnight, hundreds of thousands of charities around the world, but I mean, I'm thinking about the UK ones,
Mm,
suddenly
mm,
have to find 10 or 15 pounds per person per month to pay for a Microsoft license to be able to do the basic function of running your charity.
yeah.
And I can't help but think that has coincidental, maybe not coincidental relationship with the new president of the United States. And I'm not a big fan of Microsoft products anyway. I just find them really, really hard to use. But I've always used Google emails. Then the
Mm,
Google suite for nonprofits is very good and
mm,
is also free. So I think a lot of people will jump from Microsoft emails to Google emails. But I'm saying to people that I talk with, just take a minute to think about it again,
yeah.
because you're jumping from one US internet giant to another. Is that it could exactly the same thing could happen there?
Mm,
And also you have this position where you're getting something for free of not really being a customer, so they don't really have to listen to you.
Yes.
And I
yeah.
think
Yeah.
that's a problem. And I think actually it's something I've thought about a lot with the way we're designing Razor is
Mm.
because I'm building it for small charities. I don't want there to be like the good version is £5,000 a month paid for by Oxfam. And because you're a small charity, you can get the free one, but it's a bit shit. Sorry. And that's often what you get with tech
Yeah.
products.
Sure.
Mm,
Because I'm
mm,
designing it specifically for small charities, I want the basic version to be the
Mm.
full version and to be affordable. And but I also don't want to do it for free because I want people to value it as a service that they've
Yes.
paid for and therefore have a demand on me as a customer supplier relationship.
mm.
Sweyn,
Absolutely.
before you screen share the pricing page, that's I'm not convinced about that yet. But thinking about that as well, like where's the right place to pitch this where it's actually affordable and valuable to use for the charity and business profitable for me. Like I have to be able to make it work to be able to make a living, to be able to keep running it, otherwise I'll have to close it down. So
Mm.
it's got to go somewhere in between. And I think the tech giants, this is such a small amount in their overall profit structure that they can afford to give 100,000 licenses a year free, or whatever it is, and also not care about it, whether those people like it or don't like it. We don't care. But I want to care enough that it matters,
Yeah.
and I feel the pain if somebody stops paying. So like, okay, I want to make it good, so you keep paying, and
Yeah,
getting that right.
Yeah, back to Rachel Caldecott. You definitely need to kind of find out more about her, because she writes about technologists who care, and it's a niche, but it's the niche we would like to consider ourselves to be in as well.
Great.
I've got a few stories, Luke. Oh, before we go, before we kind of we got some stories before we go, but also if you want to contact you after the show, Luke, what's the best way for people to find you?
I think best is if people find me through LinkedIn, if they're happy to. Or go to the Razor website and you can contact through there as well. There's just
both of those are in the description for this video. So
thank you.
Great. So if we just go with the kind of few stories we picked up along the way as well in the last few weeks. The first one is entitled "From Digital Inclusion to Digital Equity: Building Fairer, Smarter Public Services," and this is from by Daniel Gale, the Digital Equity Manager at GRCC DAISY project founder, and he says that the digital inclusion was only the starting line. For years, digital inclusion has framed much of our national and local response to connectivity gaps. We focused rightly on access, devices, data, and basic digital skills. It was a vital first step. But now, in a climate of austerity, accelerating AI adoption, and widening inequality, inclusion alone is not enough. We must move toward digital equity, a justice-driven approach that ensures people not only access digital tools, but benefit from them equitably. It goes on to say digital equity is about outcomes, not just inputs. It's about power, participation, and sustainability. At DAISY, he says, we've reoriented our entire model to reflect this, and it's transforming how services are co-designed and delivered. He goes on to talk about what digital equity looks like in practice. It doesn't mean everybody gets the same. Their approach includes that with device and data banks, they triage using lived experience, not just postcode or income. Their digital safeguarding pathways are embedded in NHS virtual wards to address risks such as domestic abuse. Cyber safety and digital training is tailored for deaf users and people with sensory disabilities, and the use of open source platforms to build agency, not lock-in. So some of this stuff we've already talked about today. The policy implications are a call to action for local leaders. So they're recommending how digital strategies are framed and funded should be changed, proposing embedding equity impact assessments into all public digital transformation projects, funding digital triage roles within community organizations, particularly those trusted by marginalized groups. And that's some of the work I do already, so I totally agree with that. Shifting from digital literacy to digital agency, where users influence, not just navigate systems. And again, we've talked about that today. Ensure interoperability by favoring open standards and non-proprietary platforms, recognizing digital harm as a safeguarding issue, especially in housing, social care, and mental health. And the takeaways are redesign with communities, not just for them, scrutinize your data, who's missing, prioritize sustainability, and view digital harms through the same lens as physical or financial safeguarding. So a really useful article there from DAISY. Perhaps we might get Daniel on the programme to talk about that a bit more. So thanks for that. The next item was about accelerating our future leaders. We don't normally advertise companies outside of having founders on like Luke, but I thought this was useful because it's a 6-month accelerator program which includes digital inclusion, supporting underrepresented entrepreneurs who are adding value to their communities. It says whether you're building a digital product or service, we'll give you the skills, network, and support to supercharge your impact. So unlike as well in lots of previous schemes I've seen just about mentoring, this seems more practical than just talking to somebody maybe. The criteria are that you're developing a digital product or service, that you're age 21 to 30 and from an ethnically diverse or lower socioeconomic background, or you have a disability, and you share their 2025 commitments to fair work, inclusive access, skills for growth, and sustainable impact. And that's from TPX Impact, who do support some of the other projects that we're involved in as well, like Open Data Camp. The digital inclusion news for June 2025 from Digital Inclusion Kit. This is a summary from Claire Carlisle, who publishes this newsletter, and the articles that she includes in this particular issue are about the government to provide an extra £6 million in digital inclusion funding. I'm a bit underimpressed by that, actually. 6 million for digital inclusion funding, it won't go very far if they're spreading it out, and it needs a lot more, but it's a good start, I suppose. The new IT Reuse for Good Charter, launched by DCIT recently, targets businesses and public sector groups to use IT, reuse IT rather than buying new kit all the time. The Digital Poverty Alliance launched its new National Delivery and Advocacy Plan in 2025. There's a new report on digital access in prisons by Prisoner Reform Trust, which we'll probably have another look at another show. There's a new report on ending poverty across Cambridgeshire, which includes digital, and I thought that was a very good one. There's some very good aspects there. And mention of free resources for organisations creating a digital champions programme by Digital Unite. I don't think we've got time for the last one, have we, Sweyn? I think we'll save that.
We can save it for next time.
Yeah, yes. Sure. Okay, so lots of interesting information that we hope will benefit people who listen to the show. Thanks again, Luke, for joining us today. We hope people find it of interest, and we'll watch Razor's development with interest. Please keep us informed about how it goes.
Will do.
Thanks very much for joining us. Thanks for joining us today. Have a good week, everybody. Bye.